Hi everyone and welcome to another Old World video. It's me, Rustface, and in this video I am going to be talking about magic items. So I've covered universal special rules and spells. I'm going to get into the magic item portion. I'm only going to be talking about magic items in the core book that are available to everyone, not faction specific magic items, because they're for a discussion in those individual factions. Now I'll start off by saying generally the restrictions or how magic items work, and then I will talk about the specific magic items in the rulebook and give you an idea of my opinion of whether they might be useful, or if they're good, if they're bad, if you might see them. Some might be situational, and that's okay. Sometimes you need a tool to deal with something in the meta or what you're facing, and magic items are a good way of finding that tool. And there are some changes in Old World to previous editions with magic items in the fact that you can duplicate different weapons and things, whereas before it was just a spell scrolls and things like that. Hopefully you'll find it useful. And again, before I get into that, and I know probably people might be getting a bit bored of this, I just want to say thank you very much. Kind of the last week has been kind of crazy in terms of engagement. I know that different channels have shouted me out in, like Warhammer Weekly. Vince, thank you very much, Vince, you're a legend. AOS Coach has been on the videos as well, and other people have shared it. I really appreciate it. The subscriber count's going kind of crazy, which is ace. Really, really happy about that. If you haven't subscribed, it does help me. I'd love to get to 10k. That'd be amazing. Not that I get anything for it other than the feeling of getting to a nice number, but there you go. It's just, for me, it's kind of validating and giving me motivation to do more videos more often. So it's great to see the engagement is generally positive. And thank you very much to everyone who's checking out these videos. And it's great to see so much excitement and buzz around the world that was the time of legends. And many of those legends as well contacted me. So I'm really looking forward to getting to my first event. And before I get into the magic items, actually, I will talk about a video I'm going to do probably the next couple of days. So I went up into my loft and pulled out my old Warriors of Chaos army. So if people know the army I'm talking about, it's the army that I slaved over, literally slaved over, blending the armor and stuff, so on and so forth. I'm going to rebase that for the Old World. It's been in storage probably about 8 years now, maybe a bit less. Some elements I can't use, like my War Shrine conversion, my Skull Crushers, hopefully later. My Hero on Demonic Mount I could use as a generic, he's on a Crusher, but I could use him as generic Khorne Knight. Now, I will do a video on writing an army list, because I've started to have a look at the models and started to think about the army itself, and a few people have asked questions about what type of formations are the best ones in terms of what units and what combos, and I don't know the answer to that yet. I mean, that's going to be the skill in list writing, though I've always been quite good at that in the past. What I want to do is write a list almost live with my collection and saying this is what I'm going to build towards with my rebasing. And I think that will not only show people how to write an army list, but it will also show people my thought process about writing army lists for sort of aimed more at competitive play or effective play. I probably use that word rather than competitive, because I'm not saying it's whack or win at all costs. I'm just saying that it's trying to give you a rounded army, to give you the tools in your toolbox to deal with the situations you might be faced on the battlefield. And that really is what an effective army is about. It's about having the flexibility to deal with the questions that your opponent's army gives you, and you to be able to pose questions to your opponent that they can't answer. If that sounds like something you're interested in, it will be coming. It's going to take a little bit longer to get that out, because it's going to be quite complicated and in depth, and hopefully from what I've seen, people interacting with the channel, that's what people want. So I will do that as well. And the How to Play series, hopefully I can get that out for the weekend for when people have their box sets and start going about their first games, and hopefully you can watch these while you're building your forces to get used to the game before having to pore over the rule book, and you can concentrate on getting your models ready. Anyway, that was a bit of a tangent, But let's get into the show now. I will put timestamps in. Sorry for people who are going, put timestamps in. I will. I'm sorry. So let's get into the magic items now, and let's get into it. So, okay, so this show won't be massively long. I think it's fairly self-explanatory, but there are some rules around magic items. So generally, you can only have one of each in your army. So you can't have multiple of the same named item. However, there are extremely common items marked with an asterisk, and they can be duplicated. And unlike previous editions where it was just like Power Stone, Dispel Scroll, I think that was probably it, and maybe a couple of other like faction specific ones. You can now do it with other items. And when I cover them, I will point that out and explain what's that good. Another thing, and I haven't really looked into this, but so a model can only have one from each category, and the categories are magic weapon, enchanted item, arcane item, magic standard, so on and so forth. Now there are exceptions to the rule. So, for example, named characters, it's in the rulebook. I haven't seen a named character that could do this yet. Can take 2 or more items from the single category. Now I don't know if that's just because they might want to write a character with 2 items which will probably fall into a certain category, like 2 different magic weapons, for example, and they want to name them both and give them double effects. That might just be to get the flavor in, and they've put that in there because generally you can't buy magic items for named characters. It's not an option in their profile to say may spend X on magic items. But it does open up a design space later. So you might see that on other characters and saying this character may spend X. Now, I do apologize if there is something in the Arcane Journal for that. I haven't noticed it, and I haven't really deep dived into the Bretonnian or Tomb King Arcane Journal yet. So I haven't seen that on any of the named characters. It may be there on one of the characters I've not really paid any attention to. I don't think it is, but if it is, let me know. But anyway, it's just a rule that says they can have like 2 arcane items or two weapons or 2 bits of armor. Bit bizarre, but you know, why not? You could have 2 talismans. I don't know, whatever. So that's it really. Now, generically, and this is generically because it does vary, champions can take them, which is unusual, and that's normally your more elite units, but your champions can take magic items up to 25 points in most armies, depending on the unit. Magic standards can go on certain units, and they have different variable points limits. I think they're basically between 25 and 50. Battle standards can have a magic banner in addition to their equipment. It used to be either or, now it's in addition. So you can, and it's normally up to 100 points. Again, I'm caveating this, that's just a generic, but there might be differences. Lord level, or like your high level casters, or your good, really high level, like your Chaos Lords, or, you know, your Bretonnian Lord and stuff like that. Or maybe it's a Duke or a Baron, I can't remember the hierarchy, but anyway, the one that's the top, the Tomb King rather than the Prince, I'll use the one I know. So can have normally up to 100 points, whereas the hero level in old money language could have up to 50 points. Now, again, that varies. Some factions have special things like mutations or chaos gifts, you know, or virtues, and they are, or honors, which I think is the high elf one. They are generally outside of your points cap for that, and it's very clear on the profile. It'll say may have up to X on whatever, then can have X on whatever. So literally, if you read the profile, what the words say, that's what you can have. There isn't a generic rule covering all profiles, but generally 50 points is a good sort of mental note for hero level, 25 for champions, and 100 for lords. So let's get into magic weapons. So magic weapons have a couple extra rules. So it says a weapon cannot be used alongside an additional hand weapon, a magical or mundane to gain extra attack. A character that wields a magic weapon cannot set it aside to use the mundane equivalent. For example, cannot set aside a magic combat weapon to use a mundane great weapon, for example. If a character has more than one magic combat weapon, you must choose which they will use when they're chosen in step 1.1 of choose and fight combat subphase. Unless the weapon itself states otherwise, the weapon chosen for the first round must be used for the duration of the combat. If a character has more than one magic missile weapon, you may choose which one they will use, and they are chosen. So basically the same, you use one. So that's it. There's a lot of the special rules stop applying when you've got magic weapons as well. So like poison, killing blow, things like that. They don't take effect if you've got a magic weapon. So I was going to use the cards, but they don't have the points on. So quickly had to pause and go get some photos. So the Ogre Blade is 65 points, and it is +2 strength, -2 AP with Armour Bane, magical, and D3. So multiple wounds, D3. Most of these are going to have magic attacks because they're magic weapons, but they've put them on there for completeness. There is a note saying that magic items and spells are magical attacks. So effectively, all of them magic. I'm not going to say it every time, so you can know they're just magic weapons. They are magical. Sword of Battle is 60 points. So these are kind of Lord level. You're not going to be having these on heroes. And it's strength +1, armor pierce with -1, and it's armor bane and extra attack. So it gives you an extra attack, extra strength, and extra AP. Well, AP -1. So Duelist Blades are 55 points. Again, that's a bit annoying because it's just over. They actually be quite good on a hero. So they are strength is your strength -1 AP. Extra attacks +2 requires 2 hands. So effectively like using an additional hand weapon, but you get an extra AP and an extra attack. Dragon Slaying Sword, this will be quite popular, I imagine, is Monster Slayer. So that allows you to kill a monster if you roll a 6 to wound. Please note that only works on monsters. It doesn't work on cavalry or infantry. The Headsman's Axe, however, 45 points, would work because it's a killing blow, but again, wouldn't work on monsters. And so it's strength +1, AP -1. So these would be all fighting at your normal initiative with these, so not strike last, which is one thing to note. We got the Spell Eater Axe. Now, this one will be good purely for the magic resistance. So this is a strength -1, and it's magical, obviously, but it gives you magic resistance -2. So if that is on a hero in a unit, you've got magic resist 2. So I think that would be quite a popular one. I think that's quite good. The others are a bit meh so far. I've not really been that excited about them. The lower point ones are generally a bit more exciting because you can combo them with things. So they generally become more accessible to other heroes. And generally, like, defense is good, like, is better than offense. Because a mundane great weapon kind of does the same thing. I'll just take that, if you want magical attacks though, and whatever. So you got the Giant Blade, which is +1 strength, armor bane 2, multiple wounds 2 at 30 points. So it's almost like a little version of the other blade, but pretty good. And then you've got the Sword of Swiftness, which is strikes first. So you don't have any bonuses to your strength. You've got no armor pierce, but you go first. So could be quite useful. And no armor pierce, though. I'm not sure I'd want to be taking that. Berserker Blade is +1 strength and frenzy. Could be okay, but again, no AP. I'm not sure I'll be taking that one. Sword of Might, great. Love the Sword of Might. This is extremely common, so this will be used a lot. And this is +1 strength, -1 AP, and it's magical. So that's quite a common one. You might see it on champions. Biting Blade I really like because it is normal strength, but it's -2 AP and it's got armor bane. So that's 15 points is quite cheap as well. It's a good champion weapon, to be honest. Sword of Striking. So some of these have got notes, and these are like extra rules which are not covered by the special rules. So you might have rather than just using the universal special rules, they've got an extra thing. So the Sword of Striking is +1 to their hit rolls. So that's all it gives you, is +1 to hit. And again, it's a extremely common. It's 15. Sword of Might, Sword of Strike, and these are kind of classic ones. Burning Blade, it gives you flaming attacks, 5 points. Again, quite good on a champion because you might be facing people who've got regen. You might chuck this on because you've given them something else and you've got 5 points left over. It doesn't really affect anything. Some units have got special weapons, like Chaos Warriors having Sword weapons. You wouldn't gain in Sword weapons if you give them the Burning Blade. It kind of gets rid of all that, like the Kopesh rule and stuff like that. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's useful. I'm not so sure. It only affects the champion's attacks. So it's, yeah, I mean, it's cool, though. If you've got a model with a flaming sword, you can go, yeah, it's got a flaming sword. Kind of works that way. Into Magic Armour. Now, Magic Armour, it says in here, so only a model that is equipped with or has the option to be equipped with armor, a shield, or barding may purchase a magic equivalent. A model can only wear a single suit of armor, obviously, and carry one shield, and a mount can only wear a single suit of barding. Magic armor replaces any mundane equipment the model is or may be equipped with. Magic armor follows the same rules as mundane equivalent. For example, if you give a suit of heavy armor, it will grant the wearer an armor save of 5+. Again, you can only take one of each category unless you're named. So even though you might have a magical shield, you can't then get the magic armor as well. But you could combine that shield with mundane armor. So we've got the Armour of Destiny at 70 points. It is heavy armor and gives you a 4-up ward. That'll be very popular. 4+ ward is great. There used to be something called the Amulet of Destiny, which I think was 45 points that gave you a 4-up ward. So the Armour of Destiny is heavy armor with 4-up. Lord level heroes probably want that. And again, ward saves are in addition to armor and regen. So they do stack. You get multiple saves. And like 40k when you pick the best, or, you know, so you got the Bedazzling Helm. Maybe worn with other armor, and you improve your armor value by 1 to a maximum of 2+. So it's quite powerful because you can combine it and get your armor save even higher. In addition, if an enemy model directs attacks against the wielder, they're -1 to hit. So if you've got a 3+ save guy because he's got heavy armor and he's mounted and he's got barding, or not mounted, sorry, heavy armor, shield, and he's got barding, then he'd have a 3-up. This would give him a 2-up save. Again, it's capped at 2+. Armour of Silvered Steel, 40 points. Great for a hero. Just gives you a 3+ save. You've got an infantry hero, 3-up save. That's pretty decent. And you've got Glittering Scales. It's a suit of light armor. And you can make your opponent reroll a single hit roll against the wearer. Pretty pricey for that. I think that's pretty pricey. Got Shield of the Warrior True. It's a shield. In addition, the bearer has a 5-up ward against wounds suffered during the shooting phase. So if you're outside the unit, you know, you're operating independently, might be pretty good. If you're on a monstrous mount and you don't have a ward, that could be pretty good. It is 30 points. So maybe there's better things to take. But yeah, fine. Then you got the Spell Shield, and this one's extremely common. Yeah, and then there's 25 points. So it's a shield, and you have a ward save against wounds suffered that were caused by a magic missile, vortex, or assailment. So it's basically against magic, which is fine. I don't know when we get to talismans, if there's flat things that just give you a ward save, I don't know why you would take these ones that only work against certain things. But I got a feeling the ward saves are quite reduced to what they used to be, which then makes Chaos Armor even better. I think Chaos characters are going to be quite horrifically scary, which is what they should be, to be honest. You got Armor of Meteoric Iron. It gives the wearer an armor save of 5+. It cannot be improved in any way, but conversely, it cannot be reduced in any way. So it just gives you a 5+ against everything, which should be pretty cool. Enchanted Shield, it's common. It's a shield. In addition, you have a 6-up ward against end wounds suffered that were caused by a non-magical attack. So it's okay, but it's only a 6-up and it's got a caveat. Again, a lot of these I'm not going, oh yeah, this is great, or yeah, take this with this, because a lot of it is very situational and dependent on multiple things. So it's kind of circumstantial items. Some aren't, but yeah, it's I think these have been toned down quite a bit. I mean, Enchanted Shield just give you +2 to your armor save. It's like a shield with an extra +1, which would have been great for 10 points, extremely common, but everyone would take it on everything. So you've got Charm Shield, which used to be a 2-up ignore. It was your cannonball ignore when you failed your lookout, sir. But it's just a shield, and once per game, it gives you a 5-up ward against a single wound. Once it's been used, the Charm Shield is considered to be an ordinary magical shield. So it's a one-off 5-up ward. 5 points, extremely common. It's not terrible. You know, you might see that played. It's quite good to combine that with like a Sword of Might on a champion, because then if you're like, well, he'll be doing stuff, they try and kill my champ, it gives him a 5-up, but you can't ignore it, you know, because when you attack in combat, it's good practice to allocate an attack to the champion, because it's the same as attacking a rank and file, and you may as well say, well, one attack on the champion, roll it separately. It's a little bit more admin, but it's quite effective, especially if they've got magic items. So, but it's costly because it's 25 points. It's like quite a lot of points. You could probably just add 2 more guys into the unit. You've got the Dawnstone. It's not just a paint. You may reroll any armor save roll of a natural 1. This is great. 35 points. Like this is brilliant. You know, just if you've got a 2+ save and you're rerolling 1s, that's pretty egregious, unless you're getting face stuff with Armor Bane. But then not a lot of stuff has got more than -1 or 2. So it's pretty good. Like, and there you go. Talisman and Protection for 30 points. It's just a 5-up ward. Great. You know, like, we'd take that over the armors. The only reason you take the armors is maybe you've already got that on someone and you're like, well, I can't take it more than once. Yeah, but Talisman and Protection, 5-up ward. Brilliant. Paymaster's Coin. This is common. You can re-roll failed rolls to hit made during the combat phase. And that's really good as well. Yeah, because it doesn't say that it's, you know, it's every combat phase you reroll to hit. Rerolling hit rolls is great. You know, that's rerolls are just fantastic. Talismans are looking good, man. Obsidian Loanstone. This is also common. You may purchase up to 3 of them. So it'll be 60 points. Gives you magic res 1, 2, or 3. So 40 points, you could be MR2. Of course, you've got the sword, the axe, which gives you magic resistance 2. So that's another way of doing it. And this kind of here caveats the only one. You can only have, it's extremely common as well. So you could really protect your army with magic res if you're worried about spells. The Luck Stone may reroll a single failed armor save, which is not bad. It's only 1 use and it is extremely common. So, you know, it's okay. You could make quite a defensive little champ if he's got that and like the Charm Shield, and, you know, for 20 points if you wanted to take him in a challenge. And try and reduce the overkill or survive and mitigate a champion. But it's only like 1 use, so it's like, yeah, you get 1 reroll. Could make the difference. It's 15 points. It's not cheap, but, you know, it could be good. And you got magic standards. So some units have the option to purchase magic standards. The unit must include a standard bearer. That's fairly obvious. The only character that can carry them is the battle standard. So some of these are pretty good. I'd say this page of magic items, there's loads in here. This one, the banner of Iron Resolve, a unit carrying the banner gains stubborn. Like, stubborn is just, I passed my first test. Like, when you have something, what we call an anvil unit, and they're just designed to absorb the charge, hold it, for you to counter, there's no better item than that for that, because it does it. It just guarantees it. And anything in Warhammer that's a guarantee is great, because you're not worried about dice or weird things happening. Some units get that, and some units are already immune or don't break. Obviously not very good for those, but some armies will be like, that's amazing, you know. The Razor standard, I really like this. I think a unit that's got a lot of attacks, that throws a lot of dice, it gets Armor Bane 2 special rule. Now that stacks with your weapons. So if you've got weapons, obviously I don't think the Armor Bane would stack, but I'd have to double check that. If you've got Armor Bane 1, would you get 3? I don't know. Maybe you do. But you gain Armor Bane 2, so that's pretty scary, because if you're rolling lots of dice, you're going to roll lots of 6s, and that's, you know, that's pretty decent. It could make some units pretty horrid. So if you've got like an army that's just got a weapon that's -1 AP, doesn't have Armor Bane, you know, then suddenly you've got a way to get -3. I mean, it's only on 6 to wound, but yeah, I mean, I think that's really good for 40 points on any unit that you want to throw loads of dice and kill stuff with. Rampaging Banner, it basically gets to reroll its charge. Obviously, that's very strong, because if you don't charge, you do nothing. If you whiff your charge, that's bad. Rerolling it, pretty good. I mean, there's some armies that get things that allow you to re-roll, like some of the Brett Virtues and things like that, and so maybe not. But because it's a generic item that can go on a generic unit, if you've got a unit that has to get that charge, re-rolling that charge is pretty good. Obviously it's 30 points, so I don't know how many units can have points above 25. You know, to have to go back through and look, and when I do the faction reviews, I'll look at that kind of thing, what items are available. The Blazing Banner is 25 points, so it's pretty much open to most units. It just gives you flaming attacks, which is generally pretty good, because it just gets around regen. So like if you're playing against a lot of undead, like Tomb Kings, like it's great because it just gets rid of their regen. So it's a fairly decent thing to stick on. Now obviously I think there's some things that make you resistant to flaming attacks, so maybe it's not so good in those situations. And this one, really, the next one is, I would say, an auto include in every list, and it's one of my favorites. It's the War Banner, static combat res king, +1 combat res. Sounds mediocre, but then when you combine that with the other static res, getting the extra point, it's great. It's 25 points. It can go on most units. I would always take the War Banner in my army somewhere. It's just one of those items that just always takes part for me, because that makes a huge difference. It hurts their break test. You know, it gives you more likely to hold something. It wins. If you're going to tie normally, you would win out. So yeah, I like the War Banner a lot. It's an old favorite, so good to see that still there and doing exactly the same thing. Talismans and standards, some good stuff in there. Enchanted Item. So Enchanted Items includes all manner of wonderful artifacts. So we have, note, a model can only consume a single potion per command phase. So there are magical potions, which is kind of cool. I like that a lot, to be honest. But you can only drink one per command phase. Now, a lot of them say during their turn, so you can't drink that in your opponent's command phase. Just to bear in mind. We've got the Wizard Hat. It makes you a level 1 wizard, and you know one randomly generated spell from a law of magic of your choosing, so you can choose any law. However, the whispers of the ghostly wizard haunting the hat are confusing, so you become subject to stupidity, and it is a 45-point item, but quite useful to get into an army. And I believe, I don't think you can take this in a dwarf army, because dwarves can only take runic items. So don't get too excited, dwarf players. Then we've got the flying carpet. So this is only for regular infantry or heavy infantry. You gain fly 8 and swift stride. However, you cannot join a unit. So you're flying around on your magic carpet. I don't know how good that is, if it's worth taking, but that's what it does. Things like this will be like, you've got an idea for a character that needs to get there quickly or move into position somewhere that allows you to do it. Maybe you go, oh, that's cool, I can do this thing. You can make a cool model riding a carpet. I've seen it before. It may be one of these quirky items that you don't use very often. Healing potion. Basically, you get D3 lost wounds back. Pretty good. I mean, it's 35 points. You've got to have taken damage and not been killed. Would be quite good on if you're on like a big mount with lots of wounds and you think, well, I don't want to lose my Hierophant, for example, on my Bone Dragon. Gives you D3 lost wounds. It could make the difference between living and dying. You've got the Ruby Ring of Ruin. So it's a fireball spell from Battle Magic as a bound spell. Now, bound spells, you roll and add the bound spell level 2 to get the cast value. So Ruby Ring of Ruin, I think, is cool. I mean, it's useful. It's an extra source of damage at range. Some armies don't have access to a lot of range. It's a way of getting in there. It's 30 points, though, so it takes up quite a chunk of your hero's allowance. So maybe you're thinking, oh, I kind of want something else. But we've seen from the other items that some of them aren't really that exciting, so maybe it's a good one to have. Potion of Strength. Again, this is extremely common. Then basically you can consume it to get plus D3 to your strength until the end of that turn. Okay. It's an offensive one. It's not bad but one thing to bear in mind is that strength doesn't modify armor anymore. So it's just going to affect the wound roll. Generally, I don't know, but maybe it's good because you could have a low strength hero with a good AP weapon or something. They might better drink this and it's good, but I don't know. It's D3. You've got to do it in your turn. You could roll a 1 and you're thinking, well, I could have just stuck a Sword of Might on. It's cheaper, whatever. So I don't know. I mean, you could combine that with a Sword of Might, which might make it more useful. Potion of Toughness I like. It's 20 points. And the only problem with the Potion of Toughness, it's a defensive one that you've got to drink in your command phase, knowing that you're going to need it later on. And you're not really taking damage unless you're fighting in combat. It might be quite good if you're about to challenge out somebody, or you're about to charge and you're going to, unit champion's going to challenge or do something to take a hero out of the equation. And toughness is quite a good stat to increase generally because it really scales the wound roll. I don't know how much you'll see these potions. It is extremely common as well. Maybe you will see it. I don't know. Potion of Speed is probably a little bit more useful. It gives you plus D3 modifier to your initiative. Now, what's nice about that is if you're going to go and fight another hero or something, and you're thinking, or a unit, and you go, they're going to go before me. I drink this. I'm going to go down. I'm going to go before them. And that's quite powerful. So this will depend on what I'll call initiative breakpoints, where, for example, that Swordmasters are initiative 7. So if you're thinking, well, I'm initiative 6 or initiative 5, if I get to initiative 8, then I'm going to be going first. Therefore, I can kill them before they strike me. Therefore, that 10 points is well spent. It is common, and I think this one might be used a fair amount. Then you've got Potion of Foolhardiness. So it can consume it and the model gains immune to psychology. Now, immune to psychology has certain things that it does. So it doesn't stop you taking break tests and things like that. So it's 5 points for a reason. Fear, terror, panic is basically what it affects. Yeah, fine. I don't know if that's useful. I think it's very situational. Your characters generally have good leadership. If you're using it and you're thinking, when do you worry about that? Maybe you don't want to have to take a fear test to charge someone. Like, you know, you've got a hero that doesn't cause fear, or you want to charge a terror causer and they're going to cause fear in you and they outnumber you. If you fail your fear, you don't charge. You think, well, I don't want to take the risk at 5 points. You might just drop this potion in when you've got 5 points spare, when you've looked at your combat allowance. For anyone who's running around on their own, or like trying to take out these big monsters, you think, well, actually, I don't want to take that terror test, so I'm just going to drink this and I don't have to worry about it, you know? So, yeah, I mean, it means you're going to get, you're not going to have to worry about having to take a test to charge, basically, which could be good. Now we get into Arcane. Now, some of these Arcane items are really good. So only wizards can use Arcane items. So you have the feedback scroll. So a single use. So a lot of these scrolls are one use only. Okay. So the bearer may use this instead of making a dispel. The spell just is cast, but then you roll 2d6. For each 4+, the casting wizard loses a wound. So it's okay, but you need to be in range to be dispelling. Their spell works, you don't stop it. And it's 2 dice. On a 4-up, they might take a wound. I don't know. 60 points is a lot. I don't think you'll take this one, because the one below it is just amazing. So it's Scroll of Transmogrification. It's a single use, okay? But instead of dispelling, the spells goes off as normal. Once it's been resolved, the casting player has to roll equal to or lower than their wizard level, or they turn into a frog. Now, that is a lot more fun and a lot more effective, and it's less points. And to be honest, on any one level 1 or 2, that might even stop you casting. While you're transmogrified, the wizard cannot cast or dispel any spells. They cannot use any of their equipment, mundane or magical. They reduce all their characteristics, excluding wounds, to 1. And then during the start of turn subphase, you may roll a d6. On a 4-up, they turn to normal. Apparently, they love water still. I mean, that could be absolutely devastating if you have any character that's casting that's also good in combat or fighting, or is about to be engaged, or is going to get shot. I mean, if that happened to one of your characters, I think this might need to be toned down. It's a bit too good. I know it might, if you've got a level 4 wizard, it only works on a 5+, but that's 33%. That, and it's common, so you can take it multiple times. So, I mean, I don't know. You won't be able to do it multiple times on one spell, because it says the bearer instead of making a dispel attempt. So you can't make multiple dispels on the same spell. So I think it'll be one after the other. But, you know, it's just the risk of that is kind of crazy. It might need some FAQing, like how does that affect, for example, the wizard changes their characteristics. So if you're a wizard on a dragon, the dragon gives you plus toughness and plus wounds. Obviously it doesn't affect your wounds, but does that mean that your wizard would be toughness 1, but then the mount still gives you plus 3, so you're a frog on top of a dragon, which probably is how it will work. There might be some weird interactions with this, and you know how things work, but pretty devastating. And then you have to wait to the start of term subphase. So it does say each start of turn, so that's in both players' turns. So you shouldn't last too long, but if it could be absolutely devastating. It just bring people out in hives. That is not very likely, but just if it happens. So I think we'll see lots of those cranking around. You got the Wand of Jet. So you may apply a +1 to any of their cast or dispel rolls. However, should they roll any natural double, it's destroyed. And it says it doesn't negate a roll of a natural double 1 there. So I assume you'd have to declare before you roll. Because, well, I don't think it's it says, should they roll any natural or making? So I don't think it matters if you don't apply the +1. So you would apply the +1 anyway. The lore familiar. Now, this spell, this magic item is one of those ones I would call is an auto pick for most armies, because what this allows you to do is pick your spells, including the lore's signature. So you don't have to roll. So if you are like, I need this spell, I'm taking this. Because if you don't roll that spell, even if you're a level 4, there's a chance you won't roll the spell you want. You know, because there's 6 spells in the lore. Obviously, you can guarantee a signature, so that's not a problem. But if you want one of those spells, particularly on a level 2 wizard, this magic item just opens up tactical choices, because you can guarantee having the spell you need to do the combo you want. That is going to be in most lists that use magic, because you just don't want to risk not getting that spell. So if you're like, I really want that, I think it's called like Oaken Bulwark for a 5-up ward on the unit, for maybe my anvil that my wizard's going to sit in, I ain't risking rolling it, I'm going to take this. Lore familiar is fantastic. Now, you've also got some other things. You've got the power scroll, 20 points. This is common. So you may use this when attempting to cast a spell. So you roll an extra d6 and you discard the lowest. However, if a double 1 is rolled on any 2 of the dice you've miscast, I think this is quite good as well, because this allows you to get off a spell that you need or you want, and the risk of rolling an extra dice and getting a double 1 on 3 dice rather than 2 dice. Someone who's better at maths will tell me, but I don't think it's a big difference. I mean, obviously it is increased chance, but generally getting your spell off or a higher cast value will be quite valuable, particularly if it's one of those high cast spells. So I like the power scroll. It's good. What's to note here, although these are common, you can't stack. So in the old game, you could put multiple power stones, as it used to be called, or dispel scrolls on one model. You can't do that anymore. You can only have one. So if you have a dispel scroll, you can't put 3 of them on one model, because some people used to do that. You called it a scroll caddy. You have a level 3 wizard with 3 dispel scrolls, and they used to auto stop a spell. Now it basically means you roll an extra d6 for making a dispel roll. So it's like the power, but it's only for dispels. And if you roll 2 1s, you've been outclassed in the art. So quite good, but they're both kind of a little bit of risk. There's no auto cast or auto stop, which I quite like. The auto stop always felt a bit, you kind of had to try and get those dispel scrolls out, knowing you were, and most people needed it turn 2, and you just shut down turn 2. Like the Tomb King army, we used to be all about trying to force that magical charge through. And basically, if you had the hieratic jar, you could do an extra one, and you did the My Will Be Done, and you had the ban. So it was basically about trying to stop them being able to stop your spells. Obviously it's not quite the same anymore, but it's kind of nice no one can just say, no, you're not having it. Dispel scroll, we used to do. We used to do that in the shop. You'd cast a spell, you go, I'm casting this, and they go, dispel scroll, and it's gone. So yeah, it's maybe that's a bad thing. Maybe I can't do that anymore, so it's unhappy. No, I like the fact there's still a dice roll. It's random. It's not guaranteed. Like I said about guaranteed things, they're very good. So the spell scrolls were in every list, basically. So you got the Arcane Familiar, which is a bit unusual, especially for 15 points. Now, I believe it says the owner of Arcane Familiar knows spells from 2 laws of magic rather than usual 1. When determining the spells the wizard knows, you must roll for each law separately. Duplicate spells are rerolled as normal. The wizard may discard one randomly generated spell as normal, replace it with a signature spell of the same law of magic. Now, there are some questions for me around this. If I'm a level 2 wizard, does that mean I can decide one spell will be from law of, I don't know, battle magic, and one will be from demology? I roll my 2 spells separately. Can I swap them both down to signature or just one? Or does it mean I'm a level 2 wizard? I need 2 spells from Demonology and 2 spells from Battle Magic, for example, and I can swap only one of them to signature. Does that mean that I can't swap it to my army one? So I think this needs an FAQ. It's not abundantly clear. I believe the intention is if you're a level 4, you could do 3 spells from one or 1 from the other, or 2 and 2. You wouldn't get 4 and 4. I think that's too powerful for 15 points. Why wouldn't you take that on like a level 4 wizard for 15? That's crazy. Then you've got the Earthing Rod, and if you miscast, then you can use the Earthing Rod to reroll the result of the miscast. It's only 5 points, which, you know, could protect you from a dimensional cascade. Maybe it's worth 5 points if you don't have an arcane item, but some of the other items are so good, I think you're going to take them instead. Some armies have got some really good arcane items as well, so wizards are going to be hard pressed to take some of these because they got other things going on. You know, if you take this scroll, you're not taking anything else. So that's all the common magic items. I would say if I was going to be picking out favorites, I would rather the power scroll to spell scroll is still good, not as important. Lore Familiar is probably one of the best in total for just in general. The potions are situational. Ruby Ring I like. Wizarding Hat if you want to get an extra wizard and on a combat guy, but you get stupid, so I'm not sure about that. It's expensive. You know, you've got your magic banners, so War Banner's great. Iron Resolve could be really good if you've built around that, and same with the Razor Standard. Talismans, Dawnstone, fantastic. Talisman Protection, great. Obsidian Lodestone's useful. You know, they're all really good. Really, Talismans are great. Not only is it a good board game, it's a good set of magic items. In terms of Armour of Destiny's great. I would say the Bedazzling Helm is good. Silvered Steel is good. All quite expensive, good for Lord level. I'd say Meteoric Iron's okay. Giant Shield, Charm Shield, meh, okay. Spell Shield and True Warrior is okay. I mean, but yeah, pass. I would say that the Shield of the True Warrior would still work against magic spells because they go off in the shooting phase as well, so it's better. Which is one thing I just thought about actually, because it says it's a 5 order against any wounds suffered during the shooting phase, and obviously spells like magic missiles and vortexes are in the shooting phase. So, but I think with vortexes you can take damage other times. I don't know. Weapons, Sword of Might is cool. Sword of Swiftness could be okay. If you've got a high strength character. Obviously, if you're in a unit with the Razor Standard, that'll give you Armor Bane, so you might be able to get Armor Pierce in that way. Some of these are okay. I think the Spell Eater Axe is probably the better one because it gives you Magic Res 2. So it just protects your whole unit. Because you're in the unit, the whole unit gets Magic Res 2. Giant Blade's pretty good for 30 points. Yeah, I'd say Magic Weapon's a little bit disappointing. Would I put, for example, the Ogre Blade on a Lord? Not sure. I don't know. These ones are not so good. Killing Blow, maybe. Monster Slayer might be good on the flying guy that wants to fly in and try and pop a monster off. But it's 50 points. You know, you got no Armor Pierce. You've got to hope you roll a 6. I mean, you might do. You might have a high initiative guy with a few attacks. You roll a 6, you kill that monster. That's a pretty good feeling. Might be worth having on like a Pegasus Knight guy, you know, that just charges into big monsters to try and kill them. It used to be quite popular back in the day. That's it really. So that's my thoughts. Hopefully that was useful to you guys. I don't know if you've got any cool combos that you like. I think most of the combos will come in with the items from the factions as well. There'll be magic items in your army list that are generic to like warriors or tomb kings. and those combined with these will go through some combos. How do people feel about the scroll of transmogrification? I'm not a big fan, actually. I don't really like that item. I think it's a bit too swingy in terms of the impact it has. It kind of feels a little bit too old school Warhammer. But let me know what you think. If there's any items in there you think that are really good that I kind of missed over, or you think I'm not giving it the credit it's due, then please let me know. Always good to hear other people's opinions on it, and hopefully you enjoyed that. This was a short show to go through the magic items. Next show, probably going to do the Army show if I can. I will do a show on formations and characters, just to talk about the types of unit, and formations probably one, and characters will probably be a separate show. That should give all the advanced rules, and then we can concentrate on getting into the sort of the basic rules. And once that's done, it's then the faction focuses. So hopefully in the next sort of 3 or 4 weeks, we'll have pretty much everything out for that in that time. I also want to do some videos around my own personal hobby, what I'm doing, and, you know, my kind of my journey rebasing, what movement trays I use, and how I do that, how I transport my armies, all that kind of stuff, because I think that's useful information as well. I'm sort of regurgitating a lot of what I used to do back in the day based on lots of experience and copying other people, like, you know, like the MDF movement trays and things like that. I would say don't buy the GW ones, because building those, if you've ever built those like I have in the past, where you've got to cut up the base and cut up the sides and not have like wobbly joins, and they're not actually going to fit the unit without some cutting off the lines, because they've got like a grid on them. But if you follow the grid, they don't really fit what you need it to fit. You need, because they add a bit around the edge when you put the sides on, and then the sides you have to cut them to fit. They're just a pain to work with, and not cheap. So you can get, you know, approach someone with a laser MDF cutter and say, can you make me these, please? I used to get mine from Sarissa Precision. I think they still do movement trays. I would recommend just, you can order from their website. I think they even do it in the sizes. Like you can do like this by this, or I think you can even email them specific sizes, because like your cavalry aren't actually 25 mil. They're like 24 mil. So if you want I like to have my movement trays to be really snug to the bases. I don't want any wobbly gaps. So I would get specific ones made for cavalry, because I don't want any gaps between my models. And then it was a bit annoying, because then when I had like 25 mil infantry, I had to kind of guess which was the cavalry, which was the infantry, because it looks almost the same. So I used to write on the bottom what they were for. But anyway, that's a tangent. So I might do a video on that as well, like how I transported my armies, how I do the movement trays, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed it. Again, you can still pick up your Arxosite and other things from Pro Painted. Use the affiliate, helps me out. Element Games as well for your hobby needs, things like that. And hopefully they'll be able to get some old world stock from GW at some point, and you'll be able to order through there, and get yourself some good customer service discount. And if you use my referral, get extra crystals. And again, just a big thank you to everyone who's been liking, subscribing and sharing. I really appreciate it. If there's any video you specifically want me to cover, please put it in the comments. I do check the comments to try and reply to people, and I'll get round to it. So hopefully you're enjoying everything, and looking forward to release day, when you can finally start getting models on the table and getting hold of your Tomb Kings and Bretonians, if you were lucky enough to get them in the pre-order. And yeah, looking forward to doing some gaming at tournaments soon. And again, if anyone knows a resource for tournaments, please let me know so I can let everyone know. That'd be great. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the next video.